The birthday cake sat in the center of the mahogany dining table. 3 tiers of chocolate ganache with "Happy 65th, Gerald" written in gold frosting. 40 guests packed into the formal dining room of the Victorian mansion on Maple Hill Drive. The house where I'd grown up. The house everyone called the family mansion. I stood near the window, champagne in hand, watching my father bask in the attention. My sister Rachel held court at his side, her perfect smile never wavering as she worked the room like a political candidate. "Can I have everyone's attention?" Dad called out, tapping his glass with a fork. The chatter died down. 40 pairs of eyes turned toward him. "Thank you all for being here tonight. 65 years old, hard to believe." He paused for polite laughter. "As many of you know, Marion and I have been thinking about downsizing. This house is too big for just the 2 of us." My mother stood beside him, nodding along. She'd been talking about moving to a condo for years. "So we've made a decision," Dad continued. "We're transferring ownership of the mansion to Rachel and Michael. They need space for their growing family, and it's time this house had children running through it again." Applause erupted. Rachel's husband Michael pumped his fist. Their 3-year-old daughter squealed with excitement she didn't understand. "The paperwork is already drawn up," Dad said, pulling an envelope from his jacket. "We'll make it official next week at the lawyer's office." More applause. Rachel was crying, actually crying as she hugged our parents. "Thank you so much. This means everything to us." I took a long sip of champagne and checked my phone. Pulled up my text thread with Catherine Mills, my real estate attorney. "They're announcing the transfer. Time to send the documents." 3 dots appeared immediately. "Sending now. Title search attached. This should be interesting." "Elena, aren't you excited?" My Aunt Margaret touched my arm. "Your sister's getting the family home." "Thrilled," I said flatly. "You seem upset. I know you love this house too." "I do love it. Very much. What I didn't say, I loved it enough to buy it 4 years ago." The story started in 2020 during the pandemic. Dad's accounting firm had taken a massive hit. Business clients disappeared overnight. Revenue dropped 70%. He'd been hemorrhaging savings trying to keep the business alive. The mansion had been mortgaged twice. Once in the 90s for renovations, again in 2008 during the recession. By 2020, Dad owed $680,000 on a house that desperately needed updates. The property taxes alone were $32,000 annually. He was 3 months behind on the mortgage when he called me. Not Rachel, me. Rachel was busy with her toddler and her husband's startup that seemed perpetually, almost profitable. "Elena, I need help," Dad had said, his voice breaking. "The bank is threatening foreclosure. I don't know what to do." I was 29, senior financial analyst at Morrison Capital Management, making $185,000 a year with significant bonuses. I'd been investing aggressively since college. I had capital. "How much do you need?" "Enough to catch up on payments and keep us afloat for a few months. Maybe $40,000. I did the math. The house needed $200,000 in deferred maintenance. Property taxes would keep climbing. Dad's business wasn't recovering anytime soon. "I have a better solution. Sell me the house." Silence on the line. "What?" "Sell me the house for the outstanding mortgage amount plus $50,000 cash. That gives you $730,000. Pay off the bank, pocket the difference, and I'll let you live here rent-free for as long as you want." "Elena, I can't." "Dad, you're going to lose it anyway. The bank will foreclose, you'll get nothing, and your credit will be destroyed. This way you walk away clean with money in the bank." It took 3 weeks to convince him. 3 weeks of spreadsheets and foreclosure timelines and reality checks. Finally, he agreed. We closed in September 2020. I paid $730,000, $680,000 to the bank, $50,000 to my parents. The deed transferred to my name. My parents signed a residential agreement allowing them to stay indefinitely rent-free, with the understanding that I would handle all maintenance and property taxes. "Don't tell Rachel," Dad had said. "She'll feel bad that she couldn't help." Fine. I'd spent 4 years managing the property. New roof, $45,000. HVAC replacement, $28,000. Foundation waterproofing, $35,000. Kitchen and bathroom updates, $87,000. Landscaping and exterior restoration, $52,000. Total investment, $247,000, plus annual property taxes of $32,000. Grand total, $1,105,000 in the house and climbing. And now Dad was trying to give it to Rachel. Elena, come take a picture with the family. Mom called out. I walked over reluctantly. Rachel grabbed my arm, pulling me close. Isn't this amazing? We'll have Sunday dinners here just like when we were kids. The photographer snapped away. Dad kept his arm around Rachel, beaming like she'd won the lottery. When do you close? Someone asked. Next Tuesday, Dad said. The lawyer's drawing up the transfer papers. We're signing everything over. The house, the property, everything. Everything, I repeated quietly. My phone buzzed. Catherine's email had arrived. I opened the attachment. A certified property title search from the county recorder's office. Property address, 847 Maple Hill Drive. Current owner, Elena Marie Castellano. Date of purchase, September 18, 2020. Purchase price, $730,000. Current assessed value, $1,450,000. Outstanding liens, none. Encumbrances. Residential agreement with Gerald and Marion Castellano, lifetime occupancy rights. I forwarded the email to Dad's phone. Watched him feel the buzz in his pocket. Watched him ignore it, too wrapped up in the celebration. Forwarded it to Rachel too. Then to my mother. 5 minutes later, Dad finally checked his phone. His face went gray. What is it, honey? Mom asked. He stared at the screen like it was a foreign language. Opened the attachment. Read it once. Read it again. Gerald. Mom pressed. There's been a mistake, he said weakly. What kind of mistake? The title search. It says Elena owns the house. Rachel's head snapped toward me. What? That can't be right, Mom said, pulling out her own phone. She opened the email, read it, and her champagne glass slipped from her hand. It shattered on the hardwood floor I'd had refinished 2 years ago. The room fell silent. 40 guests staring at broken glass. Elena. Dad's voice cracked. What is this? Exactly what it says. I own the house. Have since September 2020. That's impossible, Rachel said shrilly. This is the family home. It was the family home. Now it's my house. Wiggly. Recorded with the county. Fully paid off. Dad's hand trembled. But I would have known. I would have signed. You did sign. September 18, 2020. You were 3 months behind on the mortgage. Facing foreclosure. You called me for help and I bought the house from you for $730,000. Mom's face had gone white. We thought that was a loan. It was a purchase. The closing documents were very clear. You signed over the deed in exchange for payoff of the mortgage plus $50,000 cash. Why didn't you tell us? Rachel demanded. Dad asked me not to tell you. Said you'd feel bad that you couldn't help. I looked at her steadily. Where were you in 2020 when he was about to lose everything? She flinched. I had a baby. Michael's business was just starting. Exactly. You had your own problems. So I handled it. This is insane. Rachel's voice rose. You can't steal the family home. I didn't steal anything. I saved it. The bank was going to foreclose. Dad was going to lose everything. I purchased the property legally, and I've invested another $250,000 in maintenance and improvements over 4 years. The guests were backing away slowly, sensing family drama they didn't want to witness. Several slipped out the front door. You let us think we still owned it, Dad said, his voice hollow. You knew you didn't. You signed the papers. You've been living here rent-free for 4 years because I allowed it. The residential agreement is clear. You have lifetime occupancy rights, but the property is mine. But the lawyer. Dad fumbled for words. We were going to the lawyer next week to transfer. Transfer property you don't own. Your lawyer would have discovered that immediately when they ran the title search. Catherine had actually called me 2 days ago. Dad's attorney had contacted her as the attorney of record on the 2020 purchase, asking about transfer procedures. Catherine had emailed Dad's lawyer the ownership documents. His lawyer had called an emergency meeting for Monday morning, before the planned family transfer. Dad just hadn't checked his messages. So what now? Mom whispered. You're going to kick us out? No. The residential agreement stands. You can stay here as long as you want, rent-free just like always. But this house isn't going to Rachel. It was never yours to give. Rachel's face was red with rage. This is theft. We'll sue. On what grounds? That I legally purchased property your father legally sold? That I've paid every bill and tax for 4 years while you assumed everything was fine? I pulled up my banking records. Here's the property tax payments. 4 years, $32,000 annually. Here's the new roof, the HVAC, the foundation work. Total of $247,000 in improvements. You want to sue me for saving the house you weren't here to save. Michael grabbed Rachel's arm. We should go. Don't you dare leave. Rachel snapped at him. Then to me, you're destroying this family. I'm correcting a misunderstanding. You thought you were getting a free house. You're not. That's reality, not destruction. Dad sank into a chair, the birthday celebration forgotten. Half the guests had fled. The others lingered awkwardly near the door. Everyone should go, I said firmly. The party's over. They didn't need to be told twice. Within 5 minutes, the house was empty except for family. The silence was suffocating. Mom cleaned up broken glass with shaking hands. Rachel stood by the window, arms crossed, radiating fury. Dad stared at nothing. How could you do this? Mom finally asked. At his birthday party? I didn't do anything. Dad announced he was giving away my property. I corrected him before this became a legal disaster. You humiliated us. Rachel spun around. In front of everyone. You humiliated yourselves by promising something you had no right to promise. We're your family. Family that never asked if I was okay with this. Family that assumed I'd just... What? Be fine with you taking $1 million asset I've been maintaining for 4 years. You should have told us you owned it. Dad shouted, finding his voice. You asked me not to tell Rachel. And you knew. You signed the papers. You've been living here rent-free, watching me pay for everything, and you never once said, thank you, Elena, for saving our house. You just let me handle it silently while you planned to give it away. The truth hung in the air like smoke. What do you want? Mom asked quietly. Money? Is that what this is about? I want you to understand that I'm not your backup plan. I'm not the invisible daughter who fixes problems while Rachel gets the credit. I bought this house. I saved it. And it's mine. Rachel grabbed her purse. Come on, Michael. We're leaving. Rachel, Mom started. No. She can have her precious house. I hope she's happy here all alone. She stormed toward the door, then turned back. You know what? You've always been jealous of me. This is just revenge. Jealous. I almost laughed. Of what? Your failed marriage to a man whose startup has been almost profitable for 6 years? Your 3-year-old who you were planning to uproot into a house you couldn't afford to maintain. How dare you? The property taxes alone are $32,000 a year. The utilities run another $15,000. Maintenance averages $40,000 annually. Could you afford $87,000 a year to run this place? Silence. That's what I thought. You wanted the prestige of the family mansion without the reality of what it costs. You wanted the Instagram photos and Sunday dinners without writing the checks. Michael pulled Rachel toward the door. She left sobbing, dramatic to the end. Mom and Dad sat at the dining table, the birthday cake untouched between them. What happens now? Dad asked. Nothing changes for you. You stay here same as always. But you need to understand, this is my house. My investment. My decision. Not family property to distribute as you see fit. We really didn't know, Mom said softly. You didn't want to know. You wanted to believe everything was magically fine so you could keep living here without thinking about who was actually keeping it all together. Dad's eyes were red. I failed. That's what this is about. I failed to provide for my family and you had to save us. You called me for help and I helped. That's not failure. But pretending it never happened? Planning to give away what I bought? That's something else entirely. I'm sorry, he whispered. It was the first apology I'd heard from him in 30 years. I know. I stood up. I'm going to my apartment downtown. Call Catherine if you have questions about the residential agreement. It's all legal and clear. Your apartment? Mom looked confused. You think I've been living here? I have a 2-bedroom condo downtown. This is your house to live in, not mine. I visit for holidays and handle maintenance. But I have my own life. Another thing they'd never asked about. I grabbed my coat and walked to the door. Turn back one more time. Happy birthday, Dad. Next year, maybe ask before giving away things that aren't yours. The door closed on their silence. My phone lit up with messages before I reached my car. Rachel, you're dead to me. Mom, please come back, we need to talk. Rachel, I hope you rot in that house alone. Dad, I don't understand any of this. I blocked Rachel and muted my parents. Catherine called as I merged onto the highway. I'm assuming from the 11 voicemails that the revelation didn't go well? They tried to give my house to Rachel at his birthday party. Your house that you legally own and have invested over $1 million in. That house, yes. She sighed. Your parents' lawyer called me. He's mortified. Said he was about to run the title search Monday morning and discovered the 2020 purchase. He was planning to inform your parents before the transfer meeting. So I saved everyone some time. You saved your sister from a very embarrassing legal situation. She could have faced fraud charges if she tried to transfer property she didn't own. She'll never see it that way. Probably not. But you're in the clear legally. The house is yours. Always has been. After we hung up, I drove through the city toward my condo. My real home. The one I'd bought with my own money, decorated myself, lived in without ghosts of family expectations. The mansion was mine on paper, but it had never really been mine. It was maintenance and taxes and memories I'd rather forget. Rachel could have it in spirit. I'd keep the deed. Fair trade.